What's up, YouTube? Drew here with this awesome 2007 Dodge Ram. It came to me, no crank, no start. Long story short, it's going to be my plow truck. But anyways, I want to show you guys the super strange thing I found that was causing this truck not to crank, and some of the steps I went through to come to the conclusion. And this is definitely something you need to try on your third generation Ram if you're having a no crank, no start condition. And you might consider some of the things I did as you diagnose any vehicle with a no crank, no start condition. So first and foremost, I was getting let me see, I don't have the key. I was getting dash lights and all that jazz, but nothing else. So the first thing I did was I wanted to see if I had a bad starter. So I took 12 volts, and I'm not sure if you could see, right in the dead center of your screen, there's a starter, and it's got what looks like a little guy above that, and there's a, like a 14 or 16 gauge, maybe it's 12 gauge, whatever, a relatively thin wire and a spade connector. That's the starter solenoid. So I threw 12 volts to that, and of course the starter cranked. So I knew that, basically I don't have a starter problem. I have a truck that's not telling the starter to turn. So I did a bunch of diagnosis, and I came to no conclusions, and I thought, could it be a fuse? So I started checking through fuses. It's almost never a fuse. Well, long story short, I decided, and this is something you might consider if you have an electrical issue on any car. I took a picture of the fuse box so I knew where everything went, and I pulled every single fuse. I cleaned all the terminals in the fuse box, brought all the fuses, cleaned them, and inspected them, and I happened to find a dead one. And this is after I checked anything related to, or what I believe was related to, what would make this truck not want to turn over. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got a bad fuse. Obviously, I'm going to replace that one and just fire them all back in the order, not the order they came out, but into the position they came out. But, a 10 amp and a 10 amp, not, this specific 10 amp here and not there, and vice versa. So I threw all the fuses back in, went in the truck, it cranked, it ran for a moment, and then it died again. And then I said, okay, well, it just blew another fuse. So I started looking at all my 10 amp fuses. I came over here and I found this guy, which is, this is the second time, that's why it looks all different, but just take my word for it. It's a blown fuse, and it's in this specific position. So you Ram owners, come and check this specific fuse. That is fuse number 31, and that is PCM, or powertrain control module / transfer case brake signal. And shame on me for assuming that had to do more with the transfer case than the PCM itself. Long story short, I guess it powers both. I don't know. I'm not looking any further. The truck has blew that certain fuse twice now, and it happens to also have an alternator that went bad from sitting, and potentially a rod knock. It might just be the knocking sound from insufficient spark because I'm running the truck on a jump box, but I might have a total loss on my hands. Like I said, it came to me with a known bad transmission, a known bad alternator, and a no crank and no start. So where do you begin with a truck like that? Well, obviously you see if you could get the bugger to crank over. I did, but now I have what sounds like a motor that's shot from sitting. Yes, that can happen. Condensation in the oil may have very well rusted a bearing, or caused some kind of failure internally. It sucks. It is what it is. Free truck, might not work out. But anyways, the point of this video is to show you Ram owners, you third generation Ram owners, to check that fuse. It didn't jump out at me. It might not jump out at you. I see, brake signal is what jumped out at my eye, and that's not something that I would have thought would cause the truck not to start. So check fuse number 31 if you're on a third gen Ram gas, ideally a 5.7 4x4, which is what I'm working on. And if you have a no crank, no start condition on any car, or just stick this in your memory for later, those are a few things you could try. You could test your starter manually by just jumping 12 volts to the starter signal on an old vehicle like this. You could do a lot of damage to a newer vehicle or a more sophisticated vehicles. So make sure you read up first on your specific car or truck to make sure that that's something you can do. And then also just go through your fuse box, pull every single fuse and look at it. Sometimes things aren't what they seem. I heard a story once about a you know, a hot rod with a Ford transmission in it, and the guy switched over to LED taillights and it fried the transmission. Well, the transmission used resistance from the brake taillight circuit to control pressure inside the transmission. Yes, a very, very, very stupid design. It doesn't matter how stupid it is, the hot rodder who built the thing had to pay for a new transmission or a transmission rebuild. So sometimes things are wired together in a way that doesn't make sense to us. You know, but here's a little quick tip for you. Check all your fuses, and one more time, Ram 3rd gen owners, check fuse 31 if you got a no crank, no start. I'm Drew. I hope this video was helpful, or at the very least entertaining. If it was either one, if you learned something or if you just liked it, please give it a thumbs up. That helps the internet know that it is good content for somebody else to watch. And consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more of my shenanigans. Until next time, take care, God bless, and remember, if I can fix it, you can fix it. Later.